Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Monday, the 7th of April, 2025. I'm Graham Hughes. You are watching Morning Brew on Politics Social, and it looks like it's not just any old Monday. It looks like, ladies and gentlemen, we have found ourselves in Black Monday, Part 2. Monday Harder. Stalin's revenge. Communism is back. I don't know what you want to call it. You can call it whatever you want. Good to have everyone in the chat this morning. Let's have a look at who we have. We have Simon M. We've got Martin Harrow. We've got Scott in there as well. We have got Alistair. Hello, Alistair. We've got Gallifrey and Ven, UK Medsy. We've got also Audrey White in there and Veg Pie. Hi, Veg Pie. We've got Leonora's and we've got Fulmar Music. How you all doing this morning? If you would like to join our friends in the chat, all you need to do is slap that lovely subscribe button and just wait a few moments and you will be able to opine freely. Well, not that freely. Don't be a troll or you will be cancelled. And you have to go on a whole cancel tour of the UK going on and on about how you've been cancelled. Oh, I've been cancelled. Read about me being cancelled in my book, in my New York Times bestseller. Anyway, right, so we're going to get straight to the point this morning. Welcome to the Truss Explosion 2.0. Do you remember when Liz Truss nuked the British economy? Do you remember that with her mini budget, you know? She said, oh, this will be a way to make loads of money somehow. Don't know how it works. We haven't really done the sums, but, you know, we're all thick as pig shit. We're all these... I mean, Liz Truss, to be fair to her, I don't really want to be fair to her, but at least she went to a state school, but all the people swirling around there, they were all like proper nepo babies, like proper inbred morons, born into like vast amounts of wealth, spat out from between their mother's legs into a big pile of cash, bloody cash, and they grew up thinking that everything they did was amazing. You know, you talk to someone who bought their house in 1963 for £2.50 and now it's worth over £20 million, and they think that they are the Wolf of Wall Street, don't they? You know, they think a lot of themselves. It's like, oh my God, look at the savvy investments I made. And, completely ignoring the whole society and the changes in society that caused that thing to happen. Well, they did fuck all except buy a house when they were dead cheap, and now house is worth more. Nepo babies are a bit like that. So when you get a load of these Nepo babies together in something called, I don't know, the Heritage Foundation, or maybe the Taxpayers Alliance, or the Institute of Economic Affairs, or one of these mysteriously funded think tanks where all these dickheads, all these Nepo babies, all these inbred, rich, tough morons get together and they're like, oh, I'm going to do some sums on my calculator. And you're like, okay, put the calculator down, dickhead. You don't even know how to add up one and one. You've got no sense of context. You've got no sense of understanding of the way the world works or the complexities of everyday life, to be honest with you. You've never had to buy a pint of milk or scrabble down the back of a sofa to find 20p to put in the electricity meter. You don't know how life works. You're a rich, Nepo baby twat. But, you know, they all get together and go, oh, yeah, you know, we'll put this together. And Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng, who is privately educated, by the way, put together this mini budget which tanked the UK market. It blew a £425 billion hole in our pension funds in this country. But it didn't affect anyone else, really, too much, you know? The rest of the world kind of just shrugged and got the fuck on with stuff. This time, this is taking what Liz Truss did in the UK with her disastrous mini budget and just making it global. Like, this is a global downturn. The Hang Seng, last time I looked before I came on air, down 12.9%. 12.9, that nearly 13%. The Hang Seng is down. The Shanghai Composite in China was down 8%. The Nikkei 225 in Japan went down 6.5%. The TAIEX in Taiwan is down nearly 10%. South Korea, the KOSPI is down over 5%. And in Australia, the ASX 200 is down nearly 4%, the lowest close since 2023. Jaguar Land Rover have halted US-bound shipments to America. Tata Motors down 10%. and HSB and Standard Chartered banks are both down 10% overnight. They had a bit of a partial recovery actually this morning, but my God, this is catastrophic on every level. The FTSE 100 just opened in the UK about an hour ago, and so far they're down 6%. Every single company on the FTSE 100, which is a list of the 100 most profitable companies in Britain, every single one, not 99 out of 100, 100 out of 100 of our biggest companies listed on that London Stock Exchange are in the red. All of them lost money. The DAX in Germany went down 9.8% at one point this morning, and the CAC 40 in France is down 7%. In defense stocks, Rheinmetall in Germany is down 25%, Rolls-Royce is down 12%, and it's been a banking bloodbath. I mean, we've seen HSBC and Standard Chartered go down. Also, Barclays is down 8%, NatWest is down 7%, Lloyds is down 5%, Deutsche Bank and Commerzbank in Germany both down 10%. Oil and copper are down sharply on fears of a global slowdown. This is, as the BBC's Alistair Jacks just said a few minutes ago, this is Trump's Liz Truss moment, but bigger. Like, this is on a global scale. I'm going to look at the chat for a moment before I go on. Everyone's saying hi to each other. I love the way everyone says hi to each other in the chat. They're like, hi, you know, we've got a little gang going. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, I'm all right. Monday morning, things could be worse. I mean, we could be looking down the jaws of a global financial shutdown. Oh well, never mind. But at least everyone's nice to each other on this channel. What a nice channel, isn't it? Like, it's a nice channel. What can you say? UK Medsi, you know it's bad when the doom investors are even spooked. Yup. Proper Black Monday, says Veg Pie. Yep, we've not had a proper Black Monday since 1987. So, you know, good to be bringing back the 80s again. And this has all happened because of one squishy little man has done this much damage to the world. $20 trillion could be wiped out from just the world. Gone. The GDP of the entire planet. That's about a fifth of the GDP of the entire planet. I need to press just how much 20 trillion is. 20 trillion is, if I can get my facts and figures up here. One moment, I think. It would be, if you want to visualize this. So imagine a $1 bill, right? So 20 trillion $1 bills stacked up on top of each other will be the equivalent of 1,360 million miles. Okay? The distance from the Earth to the moon is only 239,000 miles. So you could take your stack of $1 bills, start them on the ground now, right? Stack them up till they get to the moon, and then stack them all the way back, and then do that again 3,000 times. That's how many $20 billion is. You could go to the sun. In fact, it would stretch. Your tower of $1 bills would stretch all the way to the sun. 93 million miles from the Earth to the sun. Your stack would reach. Actually, you'd get there 14.6 times over. In fact, if you just went straight from the Earth out into deep space, you'll be 90 times further away than Voyager 1. 15 billion miles in Voyager 1 distances. That's just that. And Voyager 1's out in deep interstellar space. That can't be right, actually, because why would the Earth to the sun be less than that? Okay, I don't think that's right. But yeah, it's a long bloody way. It is a long, long, long way if you had a stack of that many $1 bills. And that's how much Trump has cost the earth, cost humanity, cost humans. Why is he doing this? Is it to, I don't know, bring back Stalinist communism? Maybe. Maybe this is the death knell of capitalism. Maybe we should be celebrating this. Take that, capitalism. Kind of screws over all these Americans with their 401ks, though. So what they are is like a pension fund, private pension fund, but it's based on stocks and bonds. And so if the stock market goes off a cliff, instead of getting $400 a week for the rest of your days, you'll only get like $250 a week, and it might not be enough to pay off what's left of your mortgage. It might not be enough to get your groceries. It might not be enough to pay for the heating in your house. And so you're going to have a lot of old people in America who voted for this. They voted for Trump, knowing that he was a dickhead, knowing that he was a fool, but they went, oh, but he's my fool. You know, he's my rapist. He's my guy. And now they're going to either have to take a part-time job, or maybe if they're coming up to retirement age, they might have to just not retire for another decade until the stocks and markets get back on their feet, because it might take that fucking long. Anne Phillips, thank you very much. Makes a mere £22 billion black hole look insignificant. Indeed, Anne. I can't disagree with that. And also, thank you very much for the super chat, because that's the first of the show. The first of the week. First, pinch in the punch, the first of the week. Oh, that doesn't work, does it? Optimistic Nihilist, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. Globalization, as we know it, is over. Trump didn't cause it, but he accelerated its demise. The age of multilateral cooperation for mutual benefit is gone. It's now a dog-eat-dog world of bilateralism. I'm going to give that a like. Thanks very much for that, and thanks for the super chat. But I disagree. I disagree, because you're seeing countries across the EU working together. You're seeing that image over the weekend of a representative of China, South Korea, and Japan. Like this, locking hands. That, to me, looks like cooperation that we haven't seen forever in history, actually. I was going to say for a long time, but those three countries in particular have been at each other's throats for as long as anyone can remember. And now they're going to be working together. So new alliances will be forged. It just won't have America in them. I don't think. I might be wrong. You might be right. It might be all dog eat dog. But the thing is, think about game theory. Think about the movie A Beautiful Mind, where he got the Nobel Prize for economics, which I don't think should exist. But the idea is that you work out a mutually beneficial system, and that works for everyone, rather than a dog-eat-dog world where you take what you can and then you don't get as much. Simple as that. If you make everyone poor, no one's going to buy your stuff because they're poor. And have the money to buy your stuff. They'll go without if they have to. Because are you supplying something that they need to stay alive? Are you supplying food? Elon Musk, are you supplying food? Zuckerberg or even Bezos, you're not supplying food, really. Not in the way that, most people, I don't think most people get Amazon deliveries for their sandwiches at lunchtime. I think most people will just rely on the normal sources for getting food. The farmers and the food chains, and they might stop eating bananas because, there's no bananas in the trade war because they've got to come all the way across the world. Whereas we can grow stuff in this country. Not enough for us to all, have enough nutrition, but we can grow stuff. So, this is just madness. So we've got a baseline tariff on 180 plus countries. These higher reciprocal rates, we've got China at 54%, Cambodia at 49%, Vietnam at 46%, all of which are just going to decimate American companies that rely on cheap shoes for peasants, cheap shoes and apparel and apparel even coming over from these markets. And the thing is, America doesn't make that shit. Like, trying to explain this to a Trump voter, it's like trying to explain chess to a fucking pigeon. Like, they're so thick, they can't get their head around the fundamentals. America doesn't make t-shirts. Why not? Because it's not worth it. it's not worth their while. No one's going to put money into making American t-shirts because it's going to cost twice as much to make in America as it does to make it in Bangladesh and then just ship it over. So why would you do it in America? Does anyone want to work in a t-shirt making factory? No. No. Just, it's a shit job. It is a shit job. I'm sorry to anyone watching this who works in a t-shirt manufacturing factory, but that's not a dream job. You got all these toxic males, with the whole toxic masculinity thing. Must do a manly job. And it's like, okay, what's a manly job then? Oh, working in a factory. Okay, you work in a toothpaste factory. That's great. What do? You screw the tops on the toothpaste, the tubes of toothpaste. You just screw the top on, like the dad in fucking, I don't know, Willy Wonka or something. Is that what you do? Is that what you do for a living? Okay, cool. That seems really manly to me because you're working with your hands, aren't you? Oh, fuck off. The idea that if you, I don't know, you work in an office or you're a YouTuber, you're somehow not as manly. You're less masculine. Oh my God, I'm a fembot or something because I don't cut steel for a living. I mean, it's fine. You can work in an office and then, I don't know, go home and chop up bits of wood with an axe if that's really what you want to do. But I don't really see why you need to crash the world economy in order to bring back these jobs. Like, really? You don't actually want to do. And don't forget, most of the people who voted for Trump were older people who are never going to retrain to do something else because older people generally difficult to retrain. Maybe not their fault. Maybe just the way our brain chemistry works. As we get older, it gets more difficult to learn new stuff. Or maybe it's just the boomers. Hashtag not all boomers. Maybe it's just the boomers. I don't know. But the chances of some 68-year-old who was just supposed to retire next year, but obviously the 401k has gone out the window now, so they're going to have to keep working. Are they going to retrain to work in the toothpaste factory or the t-shirt farm? No, they're fucking not. Of course they're not. It's just not going to happen. Did they do? It's going to be a boring, monotonous job. Quality control, making sure t-shirts don't have a bloody hole in them or something. Working in the chocolate factory like an Oompa Loompa. I mean, the mentality behind these people who voted for Trump, it's not there. Something that did cheer me up, though, over the weekend, finally, millions out on the streets in America. And it just goes to show, doesn't it, that no one gives a fuck unless it affects them personally. They're like, oh yeah, I know they're doing this stuff to the trans people. I know they're doing this stuff to the black people. I know they're doing this stuff to the gay people and the Hispanics. But and anyone who's here working, I was born in another country, popped out their mum in the wrong coordinate, longitude and latitude, so they can't work here. Yeah, but when it starts affecting them, they're like, oh shit, oh my God, I've got no pension fund anymore. My private pension fund's got off a cliff. Does not compute, and suddenly they're all out on the streets. I welcome it. I welcome finally America's got its finger out, and you can actually see video footage of millions of people on the street. And people go, oh, it's being ignored by the mainstream media. It was all over the fucking mainstream media. It was on the BBC. It was on CNN. It was on The Guardian. It was on ABC. It was on CBS. I saw it on like everything. All these massive marches. And there was video footage because, do you know what? Just like aliens and UFOs, right? If you can get a picture of it on your phone, get a video of that thing on your phone. Everyone's walking around with a fucking 4K video camera in their pocket, and yet we can't get images of these massive protests that were supposed to have happened in America. And I'm sitting there going, it's bollocks, mate. I'm not seeing any fucking protests. Are you kidding me? I've seen them in Belgrade. I've seen them in Romania. I've seen them in Georgia, the country, not the state, but in the actual state of Georgia. I've seen fuck all. I've seen like 5 people with an amusing placard. Well done, lads. You got those amusing placards out. Now look, I understand the situation. I understand that if you're black or if you're trans or if you're gay or if you're any kind of minority in America, it's an ill-advised thing to go and protest right now. Because you'll have all the coppers out, you'll have all of the riot shields and the guns and the fucking tanks that the American militarized police have now. I get that. But when it comes to white middle class people, especially women, yeah, they could have come out at any time because no one's going to go after them. It's like, Do you remember the anti-Brexit protests? There was minimal police presence because they didn't give a shit. But then, a gang of like 20 skinhead Tommy Robinson knobheads, are out on the street causing trouble. And you need like 100 police officers because you're going to have trouble, don't you? But also the fact that you got the presence of the police officers kind of stokes that up as well, because they've got to manage it in a way that doesn't look confrontational to them. But it's very interesting, isn't it, that the way that we manage neo-Nazis protesting in the UK is mirrored almost exactly how they protest any protests, they police any protests in America. That's just a minority. Like not a fascist minority, not a neo-Nazi minority, but just a minority. Oh no shit, we need all the police officers out. We need them all in riot gear. We need the tear gas. We need the... So yeah, I get that. But having said all that, finally this weekend, people turned out. Maybe because the weather's got better. It's a bit warmer now, although it did look quite cold in America. Everyone's wrapped up quite warm in those protests that I saw. But all over America, over 1 million people in America got off their asses and actually started protesting. They're going to have to do a lot more. This is just the beginning. But that was heartening to see. Also, there's some people who are turning against Trump. There's some people in Congress who are actually Republicans in Congress who are like, I don't know if this guy should be setting the tariffs. Don't know if he should be doing this. But the maddening thing is that even at this bill that has been put forward by a Republican that actually gets, by some miracle, gets through the House of Representatives and the Senate, it lands on whose desk to sign? Donald Judas Trump's. So he gets to sign the thing. And he won't, of course, to say that he can't dick around with tariffs anymore. Well, no, he's got like 60 days. He's got 60 days to dick around with them, and then he has to ask permission. And they can say, no, we don't like what you've done with the tariffs here. It doesn't take 60 days, does it? How many days? This was Wednesday last week. Last week, Wednesday, and we've only had, this is the 4th day of the stock markets actually being open. And they've all gone off a cliff. Just the way that, and Trump's excuses, he claimed that markets would boom as a result of this. He claimed that the US has gotten a lot stronger. He said, sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something. Yeah, it's like thinking that, if you got a headache, the best way to sort that headache is to shoot yourself in the head with a gun. Yeah, maybe that will get rid of the headache. Yeah, but you'll also be dead. So, just saying. But is this sabotage? I mean, is it just stupidity or is it sabotage? I think it's sabotage. I think that I go for the Putin hypothesis. Ooh, optimistic nihilist. Hello. We have another super chat. Woohoo! In a chaotic and unstable world, it no longer makes sense to the interests of any country to create alliances on goodwill alone. Only agreements that go beyond bilateral will be transactional only. That's not very optimistic, Mr. Optimistic Nihilist. No, I disagree. I think there is a lot of goodwill at the moment between the countries that aren't American. There's a lot of goodwill in the EU and the UK towards Canada at the moment. There's a lot of people saying, isn't it fantastic, Mark Carney stepping up and telling Trump to fuck off, which is refreshing because it's what we want Keir Starmer to do. But we understand he's not really in a position to do that because he can't, turn off the oil supplies to America. He can't turn off the electricity to 3 different states in America. He doesn't have that power. But Mark Carney does. But the Putin hypothesis. So this is where we say that, look, what does Trump want to do? He wants to destabilize NATO. He wants to destabilize EU unity. He wants to weaken US soft power, any kind of goodwill, as Optimistic Nihilist was referring to there, I guess. He wants to drive China closer to Russia, and he wants to fracture global trade. Because in Russia's eyes, the way to make things better is not to, stop the war in Ukraine, which is costing the Russian economy billions every year. It's costing the lives of hundreds of thousands of young Russian men. But yeah, they could stop that, but he doesn't want to stop that. He wants that to continue on. He could stop that and then concentrate on getting the economy back on track in Russia and reforging alliances and partnerships and getting those trade sanctions dropped and all that. But no. Instead, he's going to try and make the rest of the world just as poor and as wretched and as angry as they are. But here's the thing, right? A little bit of positivity for you. In all of those movies that you see in a sci-fi dystopian future, and it's always a capitalist future when it's dystopian, isn't it? The only sort of utopian futures, like things like Star Trek, it's always communist, isn't it? They always defeated the capitalists. The capitalists got beaten. The capitalists got beaten in those scenarios. But in all of them, where you have a zombie apocalypse or something, it always centers around groups of people all fighting each other over the mediocre, the vanishing resources. So whether it's The Walking Dead or Mad Max or whatever, it's like people don't work together to actually make things better for everyone. And that's great for creating drama in a science fiction movie. However, in reality, that doesn't happen. What happens is, if there's a disaster, generally speaking, people put their differences aside and work together to rebuild in their community. They help each other out. They dig their neighbours out from under the rubble. Even in somewhere like Myanmar, where there's a civil war raging, the civil war's been put on hold while they sort things out after the horrific earthquake that happened the week before last. So I've got a little bit more optimism about this than Optimistic Nihilist. Optimistic Nihilist has dropped another super chat in. Thank you very much. Who would make a deal with a country like the UK or any other when, like us, when the liberal stroke left-leaning government could be replaced with a mini Trump at any moment? It no longer makes sense to trust us. I understand what you're saying there, right? But what my take on that would be is this. All the other countries in Europe saw what an absolute clusterfuck Brexit was for the UK. And the hard right all over Europe, in Hungary, in Italy, in France, all these groups, even the AfD in Germany, all these groups that were screaming for their country to pull out the EU and we should get out of the EU, the EU's a bad thing. They all shut the fuck up when Brexit happened because they looked at us and went, yeah, we don't want that. So I think the same thing's going to happen here. I think the same thing is going to happen here because no other country had to deal with the Truss-onomics bullshit that we had to back in 2022. No other country had to deal with that except for us. We had to deal with it, and it was a pretty grim time, wasn't it? Grim tidings, everyone, for people in the UK, but it didn't really go outside our borders. Whereas this is affecting everyone in the world. And to do a Trump is going to be put in a position now where, no countries are going to allow their leaders to do something as stupid as this. Because at least in the UK, we have a mechanism for getting rid of our Prime Minister if he or she does something insane, like what Liz Truss did. But in America, they can't get rid of him. They can't get rid of him. They can't. They just can't. I know. I saw a video. Oh, thank you very much, Veg Pie, for the £5 super chat. It's very kind of you. My friend in Seattle sign, when tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes duty. I was just going to make a point about that. I saw a TikToker at the weekend who was saying, don't worry, effectively, because Trump can't do all this stuff that he wants to do. Can he declare martial law? No, because it would be against the law for him to do that. He needs support from Congress. And I was just like, okay. It's against the law. First up, he's been told by the Supreme Court that anything he does while he's king is above the law. Secondly, who has power over him? Who has power over Trump to do what they say? So let's go. Okay, he declares martial law, and the lower courts say, hey, no, that's not on. We're not having martial law. Declares martial law, suspends elections. Right. And she gave examples in the video about like times when in the past when martial law had been declared and why it was and how it was stopped quite quickly by Congress, and then also the fact that the suspension of elections never really happened, even during World War II, they still had elections in 1944. However, what I think that TikToker was missing was the fact that Trump doesn't give a fuck about the law, unlike previous leaders, and the law has nothing on him because the Supreme Court, of which he has a supermajority, have declared that Trump is above the law. And he has pardoning power for everyone. He is in control of the DOJ, which investigates, Department of Justice, which investigates people for committing crimes at a federal level. So, One Angry Pagan, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. Thank you. Starmer talking about state intervention, yay, nay. Well, yes, he is talking about state intervention. And my response to that is, yay! Thanks very much for the super chat. But yeah, he's not going to listen to the law. But then, okay, let's say he declares martial law, he suspends elections, and then the states, the Congress, the Supreme Court say, no, stop that. And what? And what? This is the question that all the people in the comments asked, and she responded with, like, they'll be found in contempt. And it's like, okay. And? Oh, what, are they going to have to pay a fine? Are they going to go to jail? The DOJ is not going to investigate them. If anyone goes down for a crime, Trump can just pardon them. I know you can't pardon someone for a state crime, but he'll find a way around it. Of course he will. It's Trump. I get a bit agitated when people do videos that say, "Don't worry, everyone. Daddy Trump's not going to do X, Y, Z." Oh, hang on, he just did X, Y, Z. Oh, shit. Don't worry about him sending that innocent man to an El Salvadorian jail because, the law will tell him that that's wrong. Okay, the law did tell him it was wrong. The judge said, you've got to bring this guy back. And they just went, we've lost him in the system. He's in El Salvador now. We don't even know what's happening. And this is what they're going to do time and time again. And I don't think some people's brains can process this because I think if you're like me, you're kind of driven by an innate sense of fairness and justice. And the idea that some people just don't follow the rules because a rule is only a rule if people follow it. If you have a sign that says keep off the grass, but everyone's on the grass, then that rule has no... It's just asking people. It's not a law. It's just a request. It's just a polite request, unless it's backed up by actual sanctions. What's the actual sanction for going on the grass? You'll be shouted at by the park keeper. Okay, well, I'll go on the grass then because that's bugger all to me. What's the actual sanction against Donald J. Trump for doing the things that he wants to do? Nothing. And he has to stay in power. Got to understand this. Just like Netanyahu, just like Putin, these people are fucking war criminals. And if they are out of power, they can be arrested, they can be put on trial, they will be put in jail for the rest of their days. And they all know it. Which is why they fuck the system so that they stay in power forever. Just saying. Right. Should we send out a search party for Billy? Where's Billy gone? The thing is, the martial part of martial law, the military are not 100% behind him, and neither is the judiciary. The system only works if the system doesn't break down. It doesn't matter if the military aren't 100% behind. He only needs a fraction of the American military. The American military is absolutely huge. Over 50% of them would have voted for Trump. And if he tells them to go and do something, they'll go and do something. America's got the military that it needs to go and invade another country and just have a big fuck off war. I mean, it's not just the military though, is it? It's local law enforcement, and all of them love Trump. All the police officers, all the racist police officers love Trump. All the state troopers, they all love militias and stuff like that. They all love Trump. You've got the Proud Boys, you've got the Oath Keepers, they love Trump. He got them all out of jail, even though they're domestic terrorists. And their actions on January the 6th that Trump commanded them to go and do caused so much horrific damage and death and destruction and misery. I mean, 150 police officers injured. They're all out. They're all out. All of them. Trump let them all out. So, no, I mean, doesn't matter if 100% of the military's not behind him. So what? You know, they're all armed. Their CEO says, oh, I don't think we should be doing this, lads. Just have a think about it, you know? Like, America's heading towards a very, very dark place. And I said this back in December when I did my video at Niagara Falls. I said, it's dead. It's a dead country walking. I actually use the analogy about the cartoon character who's run off the edge of the cliff and doesn't start falling down until it looks down. And loads of people use that over the weekend. So loads of videos using that same analogy. And I was like, I was there 4 months ago saying that. Yeah, some people are a little bit ahead of the curve, aren't we? Optimistic Nihilist, you've been very, very generous this morning, Optimistic Nihilist, although we are possibly disagreeing. I think overall we're in a transitory phase to a world I'm talking about. It may take a few years or a decade or so, but that's the direction of travel. We are only delaying populism taking over. I disagree. I think that Trump is going to be, I think it ends with him. I really do. One way or another, and there might be a lot of bloodshed. There might be, people's lives destroyed, families torn apart, businesses destroyed. Look, there's going to be a lot of carnage, collateral damage, horrific goings on over the next few years. Of that, I am sure. But just like Hitler rang the death knell for Nazism for many, many years afterwards, and maybe not fascism, but Nazism in particular, I think you're going to have the same effect where people will look at someone as disgusting and as putrid as Trump and say, that was the reason why it all went to shit. I don't expect his cult to ever change their mind. I think the people who voted for Trump will be happy living off grass and wanking off strangers in the park for bread. I really think that is going to be something that a lot of American voters who voted for Trump will get behind because, like in... I'm trying to remember which Latin American country it is. It might be Mexico. I think it's Mexico. And they've got this thing where they have this festival every year where people in the village, they crawl up this mountain on their bellies, right? They pull themselves on the ground and get all cut and scraped and scratched and they're bleeding. And they pull themselves until they get to the temple where the Virgin Mary is or whatever. And this is a whole suffering penance. It's like wearing a hair shirt if you're a monk, or self-flagellation. It's that, it's like, look how much I'm suffering, Donny. Look at me, Donny. It's all for you, Donny. I mean, honestly, the Trump supporters I've spoken to in real life, and I'm not talking about the vox pops that you get on TV shows and on the internet. I'm talking about actual real people who I know. And they would offer up their firstborn to be devoured by Donald Trump. They'd be like, yes, take this beautiful baby, eat it whole, Donald, because they're in a cult. This goes beyond standard politics. Normally, people are a little bit weary of politicians. You can talk about how popular Tony Blair was when they won in 1997. But even back then, for those of us who remember, there were a lot of people looking at him like he didn't really have a cult around him. I mean, you might have had some New Labour, young acolytes, just dead excited about Labour being in power. But he didn't have a cult. Gordon Brown certainly didn't have a cult. Neither did that dickhead David Cameron. I tell you who did have a cult, Boris Johnson. And that fell apart like a bit of wet cake, didn't it? Because he turned out to be the gobshite that everyone said he would be. And yet there are still Johnson true believers out there. And this is when I probably agree a little bit with Optimistic Nihilist that populism is a curse. It really, really is. And it's why we need robust guardrails in place to make sure that when a populist leader does get in, they can't do anything they want, because what they want to do is crash the global economy, destroy people's lives, destroy people's futures. Commander DJ Burb, thank you so much for £5. Just says coffee. Thank you. With the coffee emoji, sunglasses, thumbs up. I like the way you drink. Thank you very much, Commander DJ Burb. I will get myself a coffee from Cafe Nero, because that's British. Actually, I might just go to the Greasy Spoon Cafe down the road. But yeah, a British brand, thank you very much. Not Starbucks, not Costa Coffee. American. Yeah, no more American. No more American. I was wondering what Park 2 bread is expensive. Full Music says, my mate went full toxic around November. I think he's thinking it's a fascist takeover and his word is best. It is a fascist takeover. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, the people around the fascist, the people who are the closest to the fascist, when the fascist goes down, he takes them all down with him. Generally speaking. Right, I'm off to persuade my neighbour's Staffy that she really does want to model my new bandanas. Wish me luck, says Chrissy. Jesus, okay. So, sooner you than me, mate. Plumbed off on a serious note, I wonder where all this will end. Well, exactly. We had 2.5 trillion wiped off from Wall Street last week. Asian and European losses today. This is just a few moments before I came on air. Are estimated between 3 and 4 trillion. The potential global hit is 15 to 20 trillion. Sorry, 3 to 4 trillion. Potential global hit is 15 to 20 trillion if sell-off continues post Wall Street open, which is very likely to do. Stellantis in America, 900 US jobs have been furloughed. Tata and Jaguar Land Rover have suspended their exports to America, as I mentioned. The banking sector, mass panic signals fears of credit tightening, which is a big worry. So if, like me, you're in a lot of debt, one of the ways of managing that debt is by moving an amount from one credit card to another, paying the 3.75% balance transfer fee, and then getting no interest on that for a year. And you just keep doing that. And for the last year or so, on my credit cards, there's always been a 0% balance transfer offer. I think that's going to stop at the end of this month. I don't think you're going to see any zero balance transfers now for the rest of the year, because banks just aren't going to be giving out credit in the same way that they were. The same thing sort of happened during COVID. I don't know if you noticed, but all those offers kind of dried up. I mean, they still did some, but they weren't as generous as they were before. And yeah, so, yeah. Commander DJ Burb, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. Woo! Tariff costs, just in case. Thank you very much to Commander DJ Burb for that extra for the tariffs. I'll come to optimistic nihilists in a moment, but just before I do, I wanted to just say about, so even if, like me, realistically, you don't have savings that will be wiped out by this, or investments that are going to be wiped out by this, but even if you're in debt, you're still going to be in trouble, because you might not be able to do what you used to do to move money around, so you pay the minimum amount of interest on that money. It's not fun being in debt, I've got to say. It's pretty galling and difficult to keep on top of. And this isn't where I thought I'd be at the age of 46 by any stretch of the imagination. But the fact that Trump, this fat orange wanker in America, is making my life worse, making my family's life worse, is just so horrifying. And it's why I absolutely fucking hate any stupid motherfucker who voted for this man. Anyone who voted for him can just fuck off out my life forever. How dare you? It's like Brexit. I don't forgive. I don't forgive people who voted for Brexit. I'm not James O'Brien. I'm not a millionaire who went to private school. All right? My entire career was derailed by Brexit. I was working as a travel presenter. And because of Brexit and its knock-on effects, I found it much more difficult to get work in the EU, because I'd need a travel permit, a work permit. I need to pay double taxation and work all that out. I'd have to pay an accountant to sort out, how it all worked, and which I didn't have to do when we were part of the EU. They took that away from me. I didn't derail their career. I didn't steal thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, perhaps, from their future earnings. I didn't do that to them, but they did it to me. And the same way, Trump voters can get to fuck forever. I don't care what happens to them. I genuinely do not care. And you might feel that's a bit harsh. You might feel like, oh, compassion for the cons. Fuck the cons. How dare they? If they just lost their money, if they just lost their family's savings because they've got a gambling addiction or they bet on crypto or they've been conned by a Nigerian prince, fair enough, whatever. I've got a little bit of sympathy for you because, you can't help being a fucking idiot. But when your idiocy impacts me, my family, and my friends, you can fuck off forever. And this is what we've got. And I'm hoping this is what's going to come of all this. Is that we're going to realise collectively as a world that's a really bad idea to put dickheads like Liz Truss or Donald Trump in charge of anything. I wouldn't trust those motherfuckers to run a bath. And yet people go, oh yeah, he's thick, just like me. Like when you're on holiday and you hear someone speaking English and you go, oh, okay, or you hear a Scouse accent in my case, and it's like, oh, I'll go and talk to them because we've got something in common. You know how you actually like people more if they got the same name as you? That kind of thing, yeah. So thick dickheads who would rape and murder if the laws weren't there to stop them, they look at Donald Trump, who is a rapist and a murderer, and they're like, oh yeah, he's just like me. They have that affinity. He's thick as pig shit, just as me. He's a vindictive little twat, just like me. He's not happy with all the fucking money in the world. He wants everyone else to be just as miserable as he is. And they go, oh, I like that. I like that. Oh, I've had loads of, oh God, I'm mega chatting. Hang on a sec. I have to go through these very quickly. It's coming in thick and fast. Thanks, Yovash. I'll come to you in a moment. You optimistic nihilist. When old Rome burnt to the ground, it didn't result in a better world for Europeans. It made their situation so much worse that it didn't recover for over 1,000 years. Accelerationism is a proven fallacy. I agree. I absolutely agree. I am not an accelerationist. And we'll come back. I'll circle back to that in a moment. But Ivan Ambrose, £5 super chat. Thank you so much, sir. Bad or not, we'll disagree with Starmer's response to US tariffs for the sake of disagreeing. Yes, of course she will. She's a fucking idiot. Power to the people with Graham Price. Hey, how you doing? Member for 15 months saying morning all. All right, Graham. And then finally, we have come to Yorosha's absolutely gargantuan mega chat. Thank you. Thank you so much, Euros. That is really incredibly kind of you. €50. Thank you. We love getting Euros on this show. This is a pro-Europe, pro-Euro show. I wonder if this crisis will make people realise that if all it takes to tank the world's economy is an orange asshat, something is wrong with the system. I agree. Yeah. And I think that realisation is there. And we can talk about the fall of the Roman Empire. And yeah, Optimistic Nihilist has got a point there. We're talking about the fact that we went to the Dark Ages. You had the fall of the Roman Empire, and then we didn't really advance until the Renaissance. I know there was incremental stuff going on, but generally speaking, you had this era of scientific, cultural, trade discovery, this engine of progress that was Rome. And when that all fell apart, we really did, in Europe at least, stop progressing. The Chinese didn't. They went off and invented paper and gunpowder and all kinds of crazy shit. But here in Europe, we did enter this 1,000-year period of stagnation of innovation, should we say? And yeah, I mean, look, things change. I think, it's true, but we didn't really start hitting the ground running again until the 1600s, until the Enlightenment, the Renaissance, and then followed by the Enlightenment. When all of a sudden the answer to everything wasn't a wizard did it. People were looking into how these things happen, how these things work, how they wanted to know. There was a new era of discovery and wanting to know that stuff. And that's still there. I made this point last week. With scientific discovery, with innovations, with experimentation leading to new discoveries, you're building on something that's come before. So we're not going to lose that. We're not going to lose the lessons that we have learned from the Renaissance, from the Enlightenment, from the Industrial Revolution, from the Scientific Revolution, from the Tech Revolution, right? We're not going to lose all that. We're not going to suddenly, as a collective, as humans, forget how the internet works or forget how to make computers. We're not going to go backwards. The one thing that does go backwards in history is politics. Politics is like a bad sitcom that just keeps getting remade, recast with new actors every 20 years, and they do the same shit, unfunny jokes, and it's awful. And you're watching it going, why do they keep doing this? Don't they learn? Do they never learn? And whereas science, yes, we build on what's come before. In politics, we don't. We have the memories of fucking goldfish. And we see the same things happening again and again and again. And then it is frustrating when you see people saying, oh, what the results will speak for themselves. And you're like, no, they won't. You need a marketing budget. You need to explain this to people because they're busy getting on with their fucking lives. The difference between science and politics is politics involves everyone. You've got to get through to the lowest common denominator in order to get your message across. You don't have to do that with science. It doesn't really matter if the dickhead in the street doesn't understand what's going on in the world and why it is the way it is when it comes to science, because you've got scientists and science textbooks and scientific experiments that explain it all if you're really interested. And they don't really have that much control over the march of science. Well, they didn't until now, when politics has now invaded the sphere of science for some reason and is going around telling people who are scientists, biologists, chemists, physicists, saying, oh, no, that's wrong. No, the world's only 6,000 years old. Oh, how'd you work that out? Oh, well, I took all the dates in the Bible and added them together. Okay, so let me get this straight. The world's 6,000 years old, yeah. Okay, well, how come, like, I don't know. How come there's some naturally occurring radioactive isotopes on this planet that have a half-life of billions of years? How could they still exist? How could they? I don't. How did the light from those stars from over there? How can they get to us? Anyway, Alan Jackson, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. Stop bleeping swearing, says Graham. Says Alan. Sorry, to Graham. I'm Graham. Hey. Optimist Nihilist says, exactly, the system is so broken, it enabled this tragedy to happen. It's only going to get worse in the coming decades, I fear. That's where things are heading without deed and major change. I think we do need major change, and this might help them. I will go make that point about accelerationism. So accelerationism is this idea that if things get really, really bad, then we'll have a revolution and everything will be awesome again. And it's bollocks. It's never happened ever in the history of the world. Things get really bad, and then we spend the next 20 years fixing the thing that got really bad. And then things get really bad again. Yeah, that's generally the history of the world there. And we don't learn. We just do not learn. And it's so frustrating with politics and the fact that people, I guess the people who study PPE, that's politics, philosophy, and economics, maybe they should have done what I did, which was PMH, which was politics and modern history. Because then at least you could look at things that happened in the recent past when it comes to politics and go, oh, right, yeah, that didn't work, did it? Let's not do that thing that didn't work again. In science, you wouldn't conduct an experiment that's already been done 100 times already, because what's the point? You're not going to get a different outcome. Didn't Einstein say, or maybe it's misquoted or misattributed, but he apparently said that madness is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And yet, there's still going to be another inquiry in America, a scientific endeavor to see if there's a link between the MMR jab and fucking autism. I'm going to tell you now, there isn't. There is not. There have been dozens peer-reviewed studies saying, no, that's ridiculous. That's the most ridiculous thing. If you are autistic, you're born that way. It's not because, when you're a few weeks old, you had a jab. It's because everyone has the jab, and not everyone has autism. And there are genetic markers towards having autism. And ADHD runs in the family. My brother is diagnosed with ADHD. So, and so is his son. I don't think it's because we were all vaccinated. Ivan Ambrose, thank you very much for the £5 super chat, my friend. I dread to imagine what Sunak would be doing now about US tariffs if he was still the Prime Minister. Indeed. And then Optimistic Nihilists, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. Oh my God, incredibly generous super chats this morning. The Labour government is in retreat from its duty to stop the likes of Farage, not because Labour intended this, but because deeply entrenched economic and social forces are driving this phenomenon. Yeah. I think that we need to work together, definitely, to ensure that Farage is exposed for the grifting arsehole that he is. And I think that's up to us. I mean, there's local elections coming up, and I think it's important that we talk to our neighbours and talk to our people in our communities and say, please don't vote for refuck because they want to privatise the NHS. No, they do. They do. I mean, the thing is, refuck's going to probably get a load of councillors in this election just because everyone's disillusioned with the Tories. Some of us always were, but I was disillusioned with the Tories before it was cool. But yeah, even with Labour, people are disillusioned with Labour, so they'll go for a third party, and refuck is the party of populism that makes people feel good about being a racist, being a bigot, hating people for being different. So they'll probably get a load of votes, but councillors don't translate to members of parliament. But yeah, it is a bit mad. Final point I'll make for the day: we need to push harder. This is an optimistic nihilist to force Labour to do better, even if it's just to mitigate the decline better and make it harder for populists to do as much damage as easy and as fast. Yes, absolutely agree. And this is what I was going to say about. I don't see like we're going to have a revolution because of this, but having guardrails in place to ensure that this can't happen again, and this can't happen in our country, that one person can't do this much damage, I think is really, really important. The fact that Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng did do what they did is awful, but at least she was out after 44 days because everyone was like, what the fuck? And Trump, they can't get rid of him. I've said it time and time again. There's only one way that Donald Trump is leaving the White House, and that is in a box. Whether that happens from natural causes or unnatural causes, it's the only way he's going. Otherwise, America's stuck with him for the next year, the next 5 years, the next 10 years, the next 20 years. See how long he lasts. Liz Truss, she spooked the markets with fantasy economics, and Troop is spooking the entire planet with actual policy. Investors no longer trust the White House competence. If they want to make themselves look absolutely incompetent, here's a couple of ways. You can create a formula for what the tariffs are by saying what the deficit, the trade deficit is, and then dividing that by the amount that finding out, how much exports come into America from elsewhere, and then you divide that by the total trade deficit, and you get like a number of like 0.6, and then you make that 60%, and then you say, okay, we're going to charge 30% tariffs on you. So yeah, why would anyone trust? why would you trust the competence of a White House who did that, and also put a tax on penguins in the McDonald and Heard Islands, part of Antarctic territory that literally no one lives on. Nobody lives on. And yeah, it's Ben Ackman has said Bill Ackman has said we're heading for an economic nuclear winter. You see, this is the thing. It's confidence, not currency, that drives markets. And now absolutely everyone is feeling distinctly unconfident about what's going on. And we're seeing this global fallout. We've got 50, they're talking about 50 countries negotiating with Washington. But Trump's playing golf. And these negotiations take a long fucking time. They're usually done sector by sector. One of the things that we talked about with the Brexit shit was that, like, to get decent trade deals takes a long time. One of the criticisms of the EU is it didn't have trade deals with, like, the likes of America or Japan or Canada. And it was like, no, we are working on these things. And now that the EU does have a deal with Canada, it does have a deal with Japan, a free trade deal. But they just take ages because you've got to work it out sector by sector. Then you've got to work it out commodity by commodity. Then you've got to work it out, not just by the commodity, but the different grades of that commodity, whether it's different grades of steel or different grades of banana. Okay, like, you've got to work out how the tariffs work, how the quotas work, how the free trade works. It's fucking complicated. It takes a long fucking time. And what these populists offer are simple answers to dickheads. And the simplest answer is usually A, wrong, and B, hugely damaging, because there's never a case of one size fits all, especially in something as complex as the global economy. But yeah, the UK is preparing a retaliatory tariff list. The EU, China, and ASEAN countries are discussing new trade routes. Taiwan has removed all tariffs on US goods to try and placate Trump, but the tariffs were fuck all anyway. Like most places had a tariff of like 0.6% on American goods. That was overall. So most things were free. Investors are expecting inflation, capital flight, and currency shocks. The clock is ticking. The US markets open at 2:30 BST this afternoon. Expect a bloodbath. And we're going to see, supply chains facing mass reorganization. Consumer prices in America are going to rise, and fast. And the Republicans in America are starting to panic. Good. They're not panicking enough, though, for my liking. And, Wall Street may fully turn against Trump if the slide continues. And then you have a lot of very wealthy people who aren't as wealthy as they were. And, no wealth is enough for these motherfuckers. But, things might happen. Things might happen. Okay, so, this is Liz Truss with nukes. That's what it is. It's Liz Truss with nuclear weapons. He's golfing while the world burns, Donald Trump is. He's dangerous, incompetent, corrupt, and detached from reality. He's not Reagan, he's not Nixon, he's not even George W. Bush. He's something much, much worse. I'd say he was like the president for mediocrity, but at least he was like marginally more intelligent, because at least he realised that they had to put someone else in charge of the food because it wasn't working. And they were, putting Bruno on the crops wasn't working. Like, at least he realised, oh shit, we need to get someone who knows what they're doing in here. Whereas Trump's like, no, I'm a very special genius. I know what I'm doing. It's all going to work out for the best. But yeah, this is just mad. So Taiwan's TAIEX has just closed with the biggest drop on record, 9.7%, according to the Association of French Press. Earlier, the Hong Kong exchange closed with its worst day in 28 years, a loss of 13.22%. And both Taiwan and Hong Kong were closed on Friday for a public holiday. That is just insane. And it's not just share prices, commodities like oil and also gold are going down. Copper is going down. Demand for things like oil and copper tend to increase when the global economy is doing well, as more oil is needed to provide energy, and copper is a key component for many industries. However, the worry now is that the US tariffs will slow global economic growth and maybe even trigger a recession. Crypto's down. Cryptocurrency is down. Bitcoin, bit of a con coin. Bitcon, just get rid of the I. There's no I in Bitcoin. It's a Bitcon. Hey, it's a big con. Clues in the name. Is down from $100,000 a Bitcoin. It's now $80,000. It's lost 20% of its value. Well done, Trump. America's friends in Asia are suffering just as much as China, which America was trying to, take down. And yeah, this is going to be Donald Trump's this just moment. Everyone's going to sell. Everyone's going to sell. It's going to fuck people's pensions. It's going to fuck people's retirement funds. It's going to fuck people's jobs and small businesses, big businesses, global supply chains, logistics, shipping companies are going to be impacted by this because we're going to be sending less stuff around the world. There's going to be layoffs there. There's going to be layoffs in manufacturing because they're going to be making less stuff, because people are going to be buying less stuff, because people are going to have less money in their pocket. Everything that is bad is going to happen as a result of Donald Trump. And I want you to make sure that the motherfuckers who voted for this shit never forget it. Hang it like an albatross around their fucking necks for the rest of their miserable, godforsaken days. And also, if you know anyone in the UK who is like a little bit Trumpy, maybe give them a call today and say, hey, how's it going? How's it going? Have you lost any money? Have you? Has your quality of life gone down a little bit? Has it? Oh, okay. Can't afford the mortgage repayments. Well, you thought that he'd be great. Why? Because he was horrible to migrants. He was horrible to people who popped out their mum at an inopportune moment on an inopportune coordinate of longitude and latitude on the same fucking planet that, breathing the same fucking air as we all breathe. What about Trump coins, says Shin. I think that went off the cliff at the get-go, didn't it? That was just a con for Trump to make loads of money out of his stupid bloody lackeys. Elect President Camacho. Yeah, indeed. That's some idiocracy. Duke says, I hope these snooty leftists who just couldn't vote for Kamala are ashamed of themselves. Probably not. I think they're too snooty. I mean, we're getting loads of shit now because we voted for Labour and Labour aren't performing as well as we'd like them to in certain areas. And it's like, well, it was them or the Tories. Them were the options. So another 5 years of Tory mismanagement of the economy and austerity and whittling away at the NHS and trains not running on time. And at least Labour are nationalising the train services. Ivan, thank you very much for the £20 super chat, my friend. I'm very worried about the world's mental health. COVID has horrendous consequences on mental health and still does. I feel like I'm the only one who speaks about mental health side of things with regard to world crises. I agree, Ivan. I don't know if you're the only one talking about it, but I definitely agree. We need to talk about the impact on people's mental health of all this shit going down. And this is why I've said on this channel, like, if it's a bit much, please don't watch the episodes when I'm clearly going to be talking about doom and gloom. But I always do try to sort of look on the bright side of it. And I don't have the same attitude as optimistic nihilist. I do think this will lead to more cooperation between countries that are not America. They're going to see what doesn't work. Isolationism doesn't work. Protectionism doesn't work. It makes us all poorer. But that's being shown now by America, whose economy is going to be overtaken by the EU and by China in the next couple of years. You mark my fucking words. America's going to be the third. By the time Trump is out of office, I guarantee America is going to be the third biggest economy in the world. It might not even be that. It might get overtaken by India. I mean that sincerely. It might get overtaken by India. It could happen. It could definitely happen because all the rest of the world is now looking at America and going, well, that's not the way to do it, is it? Thank you very much for the super chat, Ivan. I really do appreciate it, and I appreciate you supporting this channel and watching this stuff because I know that it is difficult to get through this kind of thing. But I feel like if we talk about it together and make a few jokes about it, at least, we can have a bit of gallows humour about it, a bit of dark comedy. Because at the end of the day, what matters is our own health, our mental health, our physical health, the health of our friends and family and our neighbours and our colleagues and the people that we spend our time with in our lives. And so if you want to do something to help today, maybe don't do what I just said about calling up someone who likes Trump and telling them they're a dickhead. Maybe call someone who you haven't heard of for a little bit, make sure they're all right. Don't call them out the blue because that's rude these days, but text them, say, oh, do you fancy a chat? Honestly, also, if someone is going through it at the moment for whatever reason, just getting in touch with them. Don't feel like you shouldn't get in touch with them because this has happened or that's happened. It's the best time to get in touch with people because you get stuck in these mental loops, don't you? This happens to everyone. Whether it's a strong emotion, whether it's you're feeling sad or whether you're feeling angry or whatever, you get stuck in these mental loops. One of the best ways to get people out of these mental loops is by just talking to them, just having a chat about bollocks. Going off on one about politics works for me. It takes me away from any trouble that I'm having in other aspects of my life. So yeah, just be there for each other. Don't let the fucking don't let the people who are trying to separate us and have us fight against each other. Don't let them win. And yeah, if that means sticking up for your tribe who didn't vote for Brexit, well, yeah, fair enough. There's enough people out there who didn't vote for Brexit who need your love and support. People who did vote for Brexit, that's my love and affection for my fellow human beings only goes so far. Pygmalion, thank you very much. History will mark Trump as the beginning of the decline of America. Yeah, absolutely. Pygmalion, thank you for the £5 super chat, and I agree. I agree absolutely. Heartily. Sarah says, I'm struggling, but I need to watch Graham Tan, Ollie, and others. So I'm hearing the real news and not the far right crap. Yeah, I mean, I feel that way as well. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I don't really show clips on my channel. I know I do the watch parties, but I was trying not to show clips because I just get so enraged watching these knobheads who are given these massive platforms to go on these huge podcasts, or they get to go on TV, they get to go on Newsnight or Question Time and just spout utter bollocks, and no one's screaming at them. That's bollocks, mate. That is bollocks. It'd be good if they did. Hey, listen, we're 12 minutes over time. God, I used to worry about these shows going to 1 hour, thinking, oh God, I'm not going to be able to talk for an hour about one topic. Well, here we are. Haven't even got to the papers yet. Here are the papers. We've got the Mirror there with the Summer of Discontent. Spain holds fear. Brit tourists face wave of protests. So this is the worry that if we go to Spain this summer, there's going to be protests against tourists, especially in places like Barcelona, which isn't great. But you can understand these places are just sick of people coming over and treating the place like shit. There's a big problem with in places like Barcelona. Oh, Mega Chat's come back now. That wasn't the Mega Chat. It wasn't the Mega Chat I was looking for. Well, thanks very much for Yorash for the super chat, for the Mega Chat. Yeah, I can understand it because there's a little bit of racism in this. There's a little bit of xenophobia in this, like people coming from other places. People from around here aren't from around here, which is sadly endemic around the world in many places. But also the way that people behave when they're on holiday is a bit twatty, and I wish people would just wind their neck in a little bit and just not be twatty about it. Understand that this is where people live, and when an entire area, like, people can't afford to live there anymore, whether it's Barcelona or Cornwall, because all of the houses are second houses owned by somebody who lives far away, or they've been set up as Airbnbs, and no one can actually afford to live in Barcelona anymore because everywhere's an Airbnb. I can understand people getting upset. At the same time, Barcelona, I mean, Spain in general, relies a lot on tourist revenue going over there, and Barcelona is an incredible city. It's a beautiful, beautiful city, and I hope that we can come to some kind of equilibrium. Maybe they have to cap the numbers. Maybe they have to say, right, we are going to allow 100,000 tourists to come in, and that's it. I'm capping it at that. Anyway, so back to the papers. Green rules relaxed to protect UK car industry. Tariffs would mean world has changed, says Sama. So this is about the not net zero, but with cars having to go fully electric by 2030. Those rules are being relaxed a little bit. They're still trying to get to that target, but there'll be more government intervention into helping the manufacturers make the switch. And also, we need more infrastructure. We need the infrastructure in place to be able to carry the extra loads of electricity that is going to be required to get into people's cars around the country. But once that grid is in place, once that network is in place, we will have a grid that can theoretically go 100% renewable, 100% green energy. No more gas. There's no more coal being burnt to make electricity in this country. No more gas. No more pellets of fucking wood in the Drax. Is it Drax, is it? The Drax bioenergy, whatever they call it. They've got some bloody green buzzword for it, which annoys the crap out of me. But it actually makes more CO2 than just burning freaking coal. The Drax power station. I mean, if you're going to make an evil power station sound evil, call it Drax. Our heroes will get help to pay respects to fallen comrades. Victory for Express, as number 10 agrees to fund veterans' travel, which is nice. There's not too many people left who fought in World War II, so getting the government to fund their travel when they need to go to VE-Day events later this year is, it's fair enough. It's fair enough. Yeah, did anyone notice about the 4 Americans that died in Lithuania? There were 4 American soldiers who were killed in a training exercise that went wrong in Lithuania, and as their coffins were put on the plane to go back to America to be repatriated, the president of Lithuania was there with his wife and the representatives of the Lithuanian government, which is right and proper and what should be done in these circumstances. The plane arrived in America. Trump wasn't there. Trump wasn't there. Do you know where he was? He was playing golf. He was playing golf. Just wanted to say that for anyone who's got connections with the Army or Navy or Air Force. Daily Mail here. 9 out of 10 GPs call for NHS prostate screening program. Hundreds of lives will be saved by initial targeting at men at highest risk. I absolutely agree. This is Elizabeth Debicki, privately educated, of course, who wore all white at the Olivias. She played Princess Diana in The Crown, privately educated, of course. And here we have Leslie Manville, who won the Olivier for Best Actress, and the Best Actor winner, John Lithgow, at the awards yesterday, with Laurence Olivier as Henry V on the trophy that they win. That's quite cool, isn't it? Labour will support key industries hit by tariffs. Which is talking about the state intervention that Starmer has mooted. Now, just a quick word about state intervention. So, there were rules against state intervention when we were part of the EU, and there were rules against state intervention as part of the WTO. When people were like, let's go WTO, they didn't quite understand that state intervention is something that is specifically prohibited by the WTO. You are allowed to intervene to a certain extent, but not beyond a certain point, because they can't let state governments give an unfair advantage to a particular industry in their country, which means that their commodities, their things that they make, can then undercut stuff in another country. It's not fair. That the WTO is there to make global trade as fair as humanly possible. However, in situations where there is an emergency, both the EU and the WTO have contingencies in place where you can put some, state interference in place, which we saw during the COVID pandemic. We saw that happening. We saw it during the credit crunch in 2008 when the government bailed out the BlackRock, and not BlackRock, but bailed out the Bank of Scotland as a result of it going tits up because of the run on the credit, which I'm not saying it's going to happen again. I doubt that kind of thing. I don't think there's going to be a banking collapse necessarily, but there is going to be a drawback on credit, which means that there's going to be fewer loans going out to businesses to get started, businesses to expand. They need a loan from the bank. The bank's going to be like, well, no, or they'll be like, well, yeah, but it's going to be 14% interest or something mad like that on the business loan, which the businesses are like, well, I'm already having my profit margin cut away by Trump and his fucking tariffs. So yeah. Right, let's go back here. Bill British, Starmer to ease petrol car ban in race to shield UK from trade war. Then we've got dust off the sun cream. It's getting hot, folks. East to sunny. 200-mile wide, 24-degree heat dome this week, apparently. So enjoy the sun while it's here. The Daily Telegraph, door-to-door NHS to tackle health crisis. Streeting backs return of house calls to fix problems, driving dependence on state. I don't know if that's a good story or a bad story. I do like the idea of there being more house calls so people come to their homes rather than people having to get on a fucking bus when they're disabled, and that's very difficult for them, which is having to get on a bus is fucking nightmare anyway, the best of times. So yes, but I don't want this as part of a drive to give disabled people less money, because they're the best people to go after, aren't they? The disabled. Let's take the money from them. The rich bastards. Look at them sitting on their hordes of pennies while the rich are lighting cigars with £50 notes. Elite British car makers to be spared net zero curbs. We've got the Financial Times here, which I think is worth drawing up. DRC deal. US closes in on African mines, so the US is interfering now in the Democratic Republic of Congo to get because they want the coltan. They want the coltan. And then we've got Trump officials dismiss market rout in vow to press on with punishing tariffs. Recession fears rejected. No delay for levies. Investors expect turmoil, which we've already seen. Obviously, this was written yesterday. Big investors seek private equity exits as pummeled portfolio battle nerves. Not great. Musk's Trump tariff revolt. Ally calls for free trade with Europe. And it seems that they're having a bit of an argument there with an EU flag behind them, which is slightly surreal. But there you go. We live in a slightly surreal world at the moment. Right, I'm going to get off. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to have a very entertaining episode of Stateside tonight at 9 o'clock with me and Mikey Famine, where we are going to be examining the fallout of the Trump tariffs on the US stock market, which opens at 2:30 this afternoon. Who knows? There might be a rally. Everyone might be rich beyond their wildest dreams. Or the S&P and the NASDAQ and the Dow Jones go off a motherfucking cliff. Place your bets. Ladies, start your engines. Let's go. Okay, Sarah Davis, thank you very much for saying goodbye. And we've also got Diz in there saying thanks, everyone. And he's saying we've slightly fallen off a cliff. Actually, this isn't falling off a cliff. This is like that guy. You remember the guy who wanted to do the highest parachute jump of all time, and he went up to the very, very top of the atmosphere in a balloon, and he jumped out. Imagine he had jumped out, and his parachute had fucking failed, and then his reserves chute failed. Obviously, it didn't, and he came back to Earth safely. But God, that's where we are now. The parachute's failed. We're going to try the reserve chute this afternoon. We'll let you know how we get on. What a time to be alive! But anyway, look, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for sticking with the channel. And please watch the other stuff, the other contributors to this channel, like Super Tansky and like Ollie and Phil Morehouse and A. Thompson and Marina Perkis and Gemma Forte and all those awesome Femi and Mike Garsworthy and all these awesome people who are putting content out daily on the internet. Please support them at the very least by watching our shit, okay? Because the left is trying to get back to where, well, not back, trying to get to where the right are at the moment. The right are all over social media. They really dominate it, but the left is growing. The left, we're coming back. We're coming back. We're coming back, ladies and gents. Coming out, all guns blazing. Remember when the media was all left wing? Remember we got told off for being too left wing all the time? Bloody lefty lovies on the telly telling people that it was a good thing to be nice to each other. Do you remember those days? Let's get back to that. Let's get back to that. If it ever actually existed. I might just be making it up in my head. Listen, you have a great day. Enjoy the sunshine. And until tonight, I'll say, give us a like on the way out. I always forget about this, don't I? Give us a quick like. Thank you. And until next time, I'll say thanks for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.